Come talk medtech with me. Let's talk about CRC. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that could be. Let's talk about CHEK. Hey everybody, Walrus here from Walrus Street, bringing you the second half of this week's weekly. It's going to be a focus on a company called CHEK. I want to give a shout out to one of my viewers, Umberto Cirillo. He's the one that turned me on to the company. He posted a comment about it on my last BNGO video. So thank you very much, Umberto. I appreciate your contributions. I looked into the company and saw enough positives to decide to make a little video on it. Also, I want you guys to know I did do a little bit of background research to make sure nobody else has really covered this topic yet. I did find a couple of mentions on YouTube by Nasnius, Jody Way Art, and Clay Trader Video Charts. The three of them have covered the stock. The first two have kind of done a little bit of cursory looks into it, and Clay Trader's been following the chart for a little while, and he's actually been predicting a bit of a breakout. So if you want any further information, go ahead and check them out. Also on Reddit, user Hello Everyone did make a DD post on it, but just like the other YouTube videos, I didn't feel that any of that content really went very far in depth. So allow this to be your source for everything you need to know about CHEK. Let's go ahead and set the mood. Somebody grab the berry white vinyls and light the candles. We're going to be talking about butt stuff. Just a reminder, I am not a financial professional. All information in this video is for entertainment purposes only. Before we can actually talk about the company, I have to set the stage of why this is important. CHEK's product is a swallowable capsule imaging machine that uses X-rays, feeds the sensor data to a sensor that the user wears on their back, and takes images of the entire GI tract, specifically the large intestine. This helps doctors readily identify polyps that would be precancerous signals of colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is one of the most significant cancers in the world. It is the third leading cancer. Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther actor, unfortunately passed of colon cancer on August 28th of last year. What was so shocking about it is that he was only 43 years old when he passed, and people with colorectal cancer are typically thought of as being older. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the background that you need to know before we get started. So this is from cancer.gov, the National Cancer Institute. It's mentioning common cancer types, and if we check right here, 53,000 for colorectal cancer combined with 147 new cases per year. Right away, you can see that colorectal cancer has a ton of new cases every year. It's one of the most common types of cancer, and about 33% of those new cases ended up resulting in deaths. This is from an article back in 2019, Global Burden of Colorectal Cancer, Emerging Trends, Risk Factors, and Prevention Strategies. It's one of the most commonly diagnosed malignancy, and it's the second leading cause of cancer death. There are increasing incidences of CRC at younger ages, and there's an urgent need to better identify high-risk individuals younger than 50 years, the age at which screening typically begins. The constellation of factors associated with westernization, such as obesity, physical inactivity, poor diets, alcohol drinking, and smoking, is likely to drive the increasing CRC incidence in economically transitioning countries. Western lifestyles are actually causing an increase in CRC, in colorectal cancer. People are fatter. Obesity is more prevalent, and people are getting less exercise. Just look at me. A couple years back, I was playing basketball every single day. Now I'm sitting in front of a camera making YouTube videos. Colorectal cancer is actually on the rise with young adults. Recent research shows that the incidence of CRC has been increasing 1 to 3% annually for people younger than the age of 50, while decreasing in older individuals. The number of CRC cases is actually staying about the same proportionate with population growth, but there's a decrease in older individuals and a rise in cases in younger individuals. The problem is people still aren't getting tested until about 50 years old. So here's colorectal cancer. The most common onset, it's going to have a little bit of a polyp that turns into a cancerous lesion on the wall of the colon. The three main screening tests are colonoscopy, fecal occult blood testing, and flexible sigmoidoscopy. So colonoscopy and flexible sigmoidoscopy are both physical means of sticking a camera up the booty and checking out what's going on, looking around. Fecal occult blood testing is actually taking a fecal sample and testing it for certain biomarkers. Screening in the US is typically recommended from ages 50 to 75 years. The American Cancer Society recommends starting at 45. Several screening methods are recommended, including stool-based tests every 2 years. That's going to be the fecal occult blood sampling. Sigmoidoscopy every 10 years. Fecal immunochemical testing every 2 years. That's a type of occult blood testing. And colonoscopy colonoscopy every 10 years. Every 2 years, you go with the blood test from the stool sample, and then every 10 years, you get a sigmoidoscopy or a colonoscopy. The American College of Gastroenterology says FIT, the fecal immunochemical testing, is the preferred cancer detection test at the moment. FIT is also more cost-effective than colonoscopy for CRC screening. Now that I've bored you out of your minds, let's go ahead and take a look at CHEK product. This is it. This is the C-scan system. It's a capsule. You take the capsule and it's going to travel through your GI tract and it's going to emit X-rays to identify polyps along the walls of the colon. These are the three parts of the product. You have the C-scan cap, you have the track, and you have the view. The cap is what you swallow. The track is going to record and store the information from the cap, and you just stick this onto your back with adhesive patches. The view is the software suite that allows the doctor to reconstruct a map of the inner surface of the colon and find the lesions. Now, my whole life, I've actually had polyps, and I've gone in for more colonoscopies than I can count. When I saw this product, I was immediately intrigued because this is way easier. For a colonoscopy, there's actually a really long prep process, and it's the same for a sigmoidoscopy. You have to drink a lot of water, and you're going to be taking laxatives, and the laxative is going to empty out your bowels so the camera can go in unimpeded and see the walls, and the water is going to prevent you from becoming dehydrated from the laxative. This is a really unpleasant experience. So we have two options right now really for detection. We've got FIT, which is where you're going to be shitting in a bottle and sending it to a stranger. Sigmoidoscopy and colonoscopy, which is where you have to drink so much laxative and liquid that your butt's going to feel like Niagara Falls and you're probably going to fall asleep on the toilet the night before the surgery. Or 3, you can use CHEK and attach sensors to your back, effectively making you a cyborg. And then you're going to swallow a pill-sized X-ray machine that's going to go through your entire GI tract, search for abnormalities, and pinpoint them for doctors. Is this even a question? Welcome to the future. Now I know there's going to be some of you that are thinking, wait, if I swallow an X-ray machine, isn't that going to poison me with radiation? Isn't that going to lead to even more cancer? This is a feasibility study back from a couple years ago when the product was being initially tested. There were no device-related serious adverse events occurred, and the average X-ray dosage was 0.05 millisieverts. For those of you, like me, who don't actually know what a millisievert is, I looked it up. Millisievert is a radiation dosage. 10 millisieverts is the typical abdominal CT scan. We're all familiar with CT scans. Oh, down here at the bottom, 0.05 millisieverts, the same level as the CHEK product. A flight from New York to LA. Is anybody ever worried about the radiation levels on a flight from New York to LA? No? Okay, nobody should be complaining about the radiation from the CHEK. There have already been numerous studies and approvals applied for and granted for the product. This is the first one. It's for the European CE mark, and for its post-CE approval study, we can see overall C-scan achieved a sensitivity of 66% in all patients, including patients with polyps less than 10 millimeters, while FIT achieved a sensitivity of 23% in all patients, including patients with polyps less than 10 millimeters. In total, 142 patients enrolled in the study. After factoring in dropouts and violations, the number of evaluable patients was 90. No serious adverse events were reported, and the adverse events were mild in severity. One of the regular problems with colonoscopy or sigmoidoscopy is there's actually a risk of perforation of the colon wall, and this risk of perforation requires immediate emergency surgery. Otherwise, the patient could risk going into sepsis as the fecal matter infects the surrounding abdominal tissue on the opposite side of the colon. There was already a pilot study in the US. The primary endpoint of the study was to evaluate the incidence of device or procedure related to serious adverse events. Secondary endpoints including patient compliance, subject satisfaction, device and procedure related performance. Now, this was a pilot study, so there's no statistical significance. Usually with a pilot study, you have fewer subjects, fewer participants. There were no adverse events reported. 40 patients underwent the procedure, 28 were evaluable after factoring in technical and physiological dropouts and protocol violations. And analysis of the evaluable patient results revealed agreement between the C-scan and colonoscopy in detection of polyps was consistent with data from the post-CE approved study. So the results here were basically the same as the CE study. That's consistency across multiple studies. Looking good so far. I ended up digging so deep, I actually went on to the clinicaltrials.gov website and I found the initial application for the C-scan system. The company is not just looking to replace FIT, they're actually looking to replace colonoscopies, period. So basically all types of evaluation measures for CRC. Designated questionnaire focused on the patient's impressions regarding tolerance and potential safety concerns, comparing the patient's satisfaction with C-scan procedure procedure and colonoscopy procedure. So they're trying to do a direct comparison here between FIT and colonoscopy. Now, this is from their website, the Strategic Path Forward. They have already achieved regulatory approval for marketing in the EU and Israel. The pilot study was completed in the US. The study was conducted at 2 sites, NYU Grossman School of Medicine and the Mayo Clinic. These are both top-tier medical institutions, by the way. Specifically the Mayo Clinic. I think everybody in the world is aware of the Mayo Clinic's contributions to medicine. A US pivotal study is planned for 2021. That got me wondering, when was it applied for if it's planned for 2021? So this is from their third quarter earnings report. This is from Reuters, published on November 18th. CHEK applied for an IDE, submitted it to the US FDA on November 18th, 2020 for the pivotal study. Now, this is going to be for their study for FDA approval. An IDE is an investigational device exemption, and this allows the device to come in to be used on people outside of a laboratory setting. This is going to facilitate a faster, broader clinical trial with more participants. I realize this is only an application though, so what does this actually mean? So I looked up an IDE application. An IDE application is considered approved 30 days after it's been received by the FDA, unless the FDA otherwise informs the sponsor via email prior to 30 calendar days from the date of receipt that the IDE is approved with conditions, or disapproved. If they applied on November 18th, we're actually coming really close to that 30 days. I realize we're over 30 calendar days, but you have to consider in America, we've just had the Thanksgiving holiday, Christmas holiday, New Year's holiday. We all know that the government doesn't work on Christmas and New Year's. Everybody's taking their vacation days. Looking at you, Senate. So I'm actually expecting FDA notification and approval to come in early this week or next week. It should be approved. All it is a swallowable capsule, adhesive patches on your back, and a little bit of contrast that you drink. There's nothing about this device that would inhibit it from achieving approval. This isn't like a drug approval process. Let's get to my normal 4 questions of analyzing a stock before I purchase. Who's in charge? What's the product? What are the financials? Who else is involved? Start with who's in charge. Alex Avadia is the CEO. Prior to joining CHEK, he served as the global director at Philips Healthcare, where he managed the computed tomography systems branch across 3 continents. Philips is a massive, massive company in healthcare. They don't just make light bulbs. They have molecular imaging. The list goes on and on and on. Philips Healthcare Solutions is a fully integrated meditech company, and Alex Avadia was a global director with this company. This is their founder and chief technology officer. His name's Yoav Kimchi, and seeing as I live in Korea, I feel like seeing this guy's name is Kimchi, it's fate. I have to buy this stock. Question number 2, what's the product? We already talked about it. The C-scan capsule, the tracker on the back, and we have the software suite. Question number 3, what are the financials? They're not great. This is a huge, massive, massive risk. We've got the RSI actually approaching overbought because we have had a rise in the last couple days. I'll talk about why in a moment. Price is saddled here between the 50 MA and the 200 MA, and the MACD 12 is rising, 26 is rising, 9's rising. So there is positive momentum on this stock right now. If we go to Yahoo Finance, we could actually see the volume is massive. And this is what interested me in the stock when Umberto Cirillo first pointed it out to me. Usually with penny stocks, you have super low volume. And CHEK is a microcap company. It's not even a small cap. This is a microcap. Their market cap is only $21 million. This is nothing. So for them to have 26 million volume in trading a day, which is actually more than their market cap, this stock is poised for a massive move. Also, seeing this much volume gives me a lot of confidence in the viability of the company because I feel like a lot of other people are interested in it. This is their all-time chart starting back in 2015. When they were first listed, they had a price around $73, $74. It's been a consistent decline since then, and we've been flat below $1. This is their third quarter earnings report published on November 18th, 2020. Some of the highlights here, they mentioned the IDE application. The application was submitted on the same day as the earnings report. They're prepping for the US pivotal study, and they're including progress in establishing supporting device manufacturing, supply chain quality controls, while initiating the substantial expansion of the clinic data set on average risk patients. They're strengthening their balance sheet through gross proceeds of $9.6 million in warrant exercise financing in July. They actually don't have any debt right now. Now, if you think about it, I just mentioned that the stock price has been trading below $1 for a really long time. This means they were not in compliance with NASDAQ regulations and they were threatened to be delisted. This is on June 5th. CHEK announces receipt of NASDAQ minimum bid price notification. The company is not in compliance with the minimum bid price requirement for continued listing, which requires listed securities to maintain a minimum bid price of $1 per share. The company has 180 calendar days from July 1st or until December 28th to regain compliance with the requirement. They didn't do that. They failed to regain compliance. This was just posted last Wednesday. CHEK applied for and was granted a 180-day NASDAQ compliance extension. This gives them another 180 days to gain compliance. So they've got about 6 months of leeway here. If you go over to TradingView right now, this is pretty interesting. A lot of the people on TradingView, one day, 1 week, bounce up. People are saying it's about to be poised for a breakout from the technical analysis. Technicals are indicating a buy. I don't place a whole lot of faith in technical analysis. I'm actually more interested in the post volume, and you can see a lot of people posting about this stock right now. That's basically free advertising and free hype. This is simply Wall Street. Their snowflake looks like butt. We've got high financial health, low future, low past, low dividend, and there is some amount of value here. If you scroll down to their balance sheet, they're debt free and they have not had any debt for the past 5 years. And as per their earning report, they actually have enough capital to fund their ongoing operations and plans for about 12 months. This is about 1 year from November, so we're looking about 9-month runway right now. Question 4, my last question. Who else is invested? Not many people, honestly. Citadel Advisors, Parrot Capital Management, UBS Group, Morgan Stanley is only in for 6,000 shares, Wells Fargo is only in for 5,000 shares. Really nobody's invested in this yet, but if you go to FinViz and you could see the insider ownage is about 9%. So the insiders in this company, the C-suite, are fully vested in this company's success. And there have been no insider transactions over the last 6 months. So that C-suite is not selling to get out of their position. They're still holding and trying to make something out of this. So what's the play here? We've got a company that has an amazing, innovative product that could change the way people screen for one of the most common and deadly types of cancer in the world. It would make the screening faster, more convenient, and for a type of cancer that's advancing in a younger population, fast and convenient are the trends that everything is following in society. We also have a rising obesity epidemic, and obesity is one of the leading facilitating symptoms of CRC. Obesity is not declining anywhere, so CRC is going to keep rising. This technology, the CCAP, can replace, based on the academic studies we've seen so far, existing colonoscopies, sigmoidoscopies, and FIT. Colonoscopies and sigmoidoscopies carry significant risk. The CHEK doesn't have any of those problems. The company's financials are crap, but the volume is really high right now. We could see the FDA approval for the IDE as soon as this week. There are 2 big impetuses coming up this year for this company. The first one is going to be FDA approval. If the IDE comes in this week, I really think you're going to see the stock shoot back above $1 a share to maintain compliance. And the second one is going to be the completion of the study in the US. And this is not going to be a long-term study. Because of the nature of colonoscopies, sigmoidoscopies, and the nature of the CHEK capsule, you can actually collect the data without needing a longitudinal study. This is like a 3-day turnaround thing per patient. I'm expecting FDA approval to be granted as soon as this week or early next week. I'm also expecting the pivotal study to be completed by this summertime, which is going to be within their cash runway. At that point, they might need to raise capital somehow, and there is a possibility of another share offering. However, usually I hate share offerings because they cause dilution. But if you look right now at the shares outstanding for CHEK, they only have 46.24 million shares outstanding. Last week I covered Bionanogenomics, and they're at 105 million shares outstanding. CHEK can actually do an offering, and it's not going to dilute the shares that much. I think people are going to be more excited about the product and the technology. Even if they do an offering, they're not going to offer that many because the stock price is going to be rising at that point on the FDA approval, on the pivotal study results. This is absolutely a risky play. This is a gamble, and I'm not going to tell you to buy this stock. I am, however, going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to show you guys what my position is going to be in CHEK. And I'm going to buy, limit order, limit price. This is going to protect me from a spike on market open. 1,000 shares. Swipe up to trade. And there we go. You can see I'm going to be purchasing 1,000 shares. My plan is going to be to let those shares ride until the FDA decision is made. At that point, because this is a really risky hold, I'm going to sell enough shares to cover my entry basis, and I'm going to let the rest of them ride until we see how this turns out. Once again, I cannot stress enough, this is a very, very risky investment. Basically, everything has to go perfectly. We have to have the FDA ID approval, otherwise the company is going to run out of capital before they can complete the pivotal study. The pivotal study has to have consistent results as the previous studies, but the previous studies were all consistent and there's no reason to think that can't happen. At that point, the company will have to raise capital again to maintain functionality to get to marketing and sales. That being said, I think this is a massively undervalued microcap that has the potential to change an entire industry. There you have it, YouTube's first comprehensive due diligence of CHEK. If you guys enjoy the content on my channel, please like and subscribe. If you want to support me and start trading on your own, I've got Robinhood and Webull links below, my referral links. If you use them to sign up, you get some free stock, I get some free stock, everybody's happy. Thanks for stopping by. I'll be back next week with more content.